Darwinism, or evolution as it is more commonly named, was first explored by Charles Darwin during the 1800s. While in his 20s, Darwin set sail on a scientific expedition aboard a ship called the HMS Beagle. During this voyage, he noticed that many of the species he was observing in South America were very similar to species living in the milder climate of Europe. He also recognized that the belief that the Earth was only a few thousand years old could be impossible, as he watched a volcano erupt off the coastline of Chile and gathered fossils of marine animals in the Andes Mountains. The most well-known aspect of Darwin's research deals with the Galapagos finch. These finches have become famous because of their extremely diverse beak shapes and function. While traveling to different islands in the Galapagos Islands, Darwin saw that a lot of the birds looked very similar, except for one major difference: their beak size and shape. The differences in the beak shape caused Darwin to reflect on the origin of the differences. On further reflection, he discovered that the differences in their beak shape had to do with their diet in part. All of the finches shared a common ancestor, but over time evolved to adapt to their island-specific dietary needs. For example, a bird with a large beak would be able to thrive on an island with only large nuts because their beaks would be well suited for eating them, whereas if the same bird was on an island with bugs as a main food source, they would not be able to thrive because a finch with a long, small beak would be able to obtain the food much easier. Over time, only the birds with beaks specifically suited to their island's dietary needs would survive and thrive, resulting in only that kind of bird living on that island. This would also result in differing variants of birds on islands with different food sources. This process started Darwin's studies on what he called natural selection. Unlike other scientists trying to prove evolution to be true, Darwin was able to successfully convince many through his findings. After gathering much evidence to support his theory of evolution and natural selection, he began writing a book titled On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, more commonly known as On the Origin of Species. In this book, Darwin covers several different evidences to support his theory of evolution, including descent with modification, artificial selection, natural selection, and adaptation. Descent with modification was the phrase Darwin used in place of evolution in the first edition of his book. It simply means the process by which a parent passes down traits to its offspring. They are not clones of one parent, rather a combination of the two parents' genes. He acknowledges mutations or small changes that may occur and attributes these to eventual evolution. Artificial selection is what Darwin used to define how humans have bred animals and plants together to create an offspring with a concoction of the most desirable traits. As a result of artificial selection, Darwin points out these offspring often have little resemblance to their ancestors. Natural selection plays a very large role in evolution. Darwin describes natural selection as a process in which individuals that have certain inherited traits tend to survive and reproduce at higher rates than do other individuals because of those traits. Through this book on the origin of species, Darwin was able to bring forth much evidence supporting evolution. However, he still acknowledged that there is much to learn about how plants and animals evolve. Many people gave their support as they read his work, and still some questioned and argued against his hypothesis. Thanks for watching.